7th Canto, Chapter 27. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to your wonderful services and your enthusiasm in learning Srimad Bhagavatam inspires all of us, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your valuable time and association. I now hand over the call to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna devotees, my obeisances to all of you. We'll offer brief prayers and we can discuss. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chekshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, thank you so much for making the time to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam together. This will be discussing fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically chapter 27 summary. Obviously, it's a summary, so we cannot go into great detail. But thanks to the purport of Srila Prabhupada, there are wonderful lessons for us as sadhakas, practicing devotees, as practitioners of Grihastha life, as practicing devotees. We can learn many things in this chapter. So, if you remember, overall context for this chapter is that Narada Muni is speaking to the father of the Prachetas. His name is Prachina Barhi or Prachina Barhisat. Yeah. So Narada Muni is talking to him. Why is he talking to him? Because Narada Muni already ensured the children Prachetas are going back to Godhead. That means they're going to pure devotion service of Krishna. Now, traveler like Narada Muni has only one purpose: to help everybody to go towards pure devotion service. So he came to help Prachina Barhi. Specifically, what happened was Prachina Barishat was engaged in lot of fruitive activities, specifically engaged in lots of sacrifices. Is described in the previous chapters how he does one sacrifice. Before that sacrifice totally concludes itself, he starts preparation for the next sacrifice. Like there are so many sacrifices. Sacrifice itself is not bad, but sacrifice he's performing for karma kanda purposes. That means some fruitive benefit, so for some material benefit. Generally, sacrifice, we also as practicing devotees are learn to do sacrifice. But for what? Sacrifice for Supreme Lord, pleasure, for pleasure of Supreme Lord. Not to get something for me, something for me, something for me like that. So that is where this king Prachin Barshi was making a mistake. For material desire purpose, he was engaging in lot of karmakanda sacrifices. And through that process, what he was doing is he was killing lot of animals also through the sacrifices. So that was the context where Narada Muni came to him. And when Narada Muni came to him, interestingly, King Prachinbari only asked him, can you instruct me like that? And a higher goal of life like that, he only asked me. But still, expert pure devotees know how to give Krishna consciousness to each of us in appropriate manner. Similarly, Narada Muni knew what is the right way to give Krishna consciousness to Prachina Barhi. So, with that understanding, and we know pure devotees are inspired by Krishna in their heart, how exactly to give the bhakti to someone like that. So, in this case, Narada Muni was inspired to tell him a allegory. That means a mythological story. So I want to caution here that normally Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, these are Puranas and Itihasas, right? Their majority of these scriptures are based on true stories or true history that has happened, the past incidents that happened, either on the earthly realm or in the higher realms, heavenly realms, for example. But they are true stories. But occasionally, like in this case, few of the chapters, Narada Muni is describing an allegory, the mythological story. For what purpose? To drive a lesson for us and for Prachinabarhi also. So obviously, when scriptures, when we're reading, we not only read that, oh, Prachinabarhi is so dumb, he doesn't know. That's why he's doing fruity sacrifices. I'm not doing karmakanda sacrifices. So it's for people who are doing karmakanda sacrifices, nothing for me like that. Instead of distancing ourselves from scripture like that, we need to look at more closely what are the instructions that Narada Muni is giving for a person in that context of Prachinbari, what is doing, number one. Number two, in my life, are there any tendencies of fruitive tendencies in my own life, in my own consciousness like that? So is there any lesson that's applicable for me in my practice of life, in my practice of spiritual life, in my practice of household life, in my practice of bhakti? Like that also we need to look at these pastimes. So that is what acharyas like Srila Prabhupada are doing for us through the form of purports. So now what you'll see in this chapter is while the allegory story is progressing, Srila Prabhupada is giving us practical life lessons that we can apply also. For example, storyline is itself is telling some negative example, but Prabhupada's negative example of how wife and husband are in an improper way in this circumstance. But then Prabhupada purports gives us what is the right way a household life should be there for a devotee like that. So these are the valuable instructions that our acharyas are giving us for our own benefit. So that is why we hear and read scriptures with the guidance of Guru and Sadhu also. That way we can get the real import, real purport of the pastime. So with this high level context, so now where we are in the storyline is that um, Narada Muni is explaining the allegory story to Prachinabarhi, and he starts with explaining a king by name Puranjana. Puranjana is analogous to a spirit soul. So, so somebody, Puranjana name itself means Pura means city, Anjana means somebody who's enjoying. So Puranjana means name itself means somebody who has enjoying tendency, who wants to enjoy the city. In this allegory, you've seen so far already that how the city of nine gates is referred to, which is nothing but the body where the spirit soul is living currently. And then he started looking for a first is described in the beginning of the allegory how he was started looking for a place to suitable place for enjoy like that. Then he finally found the human body to enjoy. Why is human body better to enjoy also compared to other forms of life? Other forms of life, they are they usually enjoy with only one sense. For example, fish enjoys eating nice food, or some other animal enjoys hearing nice music. For example, deer is commonly given, and then some other moth kind of insect enjoys seeing bright light, and it cannot control itself going into the fire and dying actually. So like that, many different species of life normally enjoy with one or more one sense primarily. Whereas in human body, we have opportunity to be able to enjoy with multiple senses. Number one. Number two, not only whenever I remember a long time ago when I was looking at something, I think it's this movie that time I was watching movies that time, a Spider-Man movie, I think. Some statement caught my attention that with great power comes great responsibility. Similarly, when our human body is giving us higher facility, then it also comes with higher responsibility. For example, the human body is not only endowed with five senses we talked about, the five knowledge acquiring senses that are gateways for either enjoyment or, in one sense, they are starting points for suffering also, or they can be utilized for devotion service also. That is one. But our human body also is endowed with, human species are endowed with higher intelligence and less covering of lust also compared to animals and plants, like we know from Bhagavad Gita also. So, because we are endowed with higher intelligence and higher consciousness, now we have the responsibility to choose the best things, not the cheaper things, not the short term beneficial things, but long term beneficial things like that. So instead of choosing something that gives me temporary happiness for few minutes, few hours, few months, few days, few years, but I choose something that will give me permanent, eternal, ever growing happiness and satisfaction in my life. What is that? That is when we are engaging ourselves in relation to the Supreme Lord Krishna in bhakti. That's what will satisfy our heart, and that is what will give us permanent happiness, not temporary flickering happiness. So that's a higher facility that human body gives us. Now, so after Puranjana finds a human body as the city, which is a city which is nothing but the human body in this analogy. So then he finds a beautiful woman. That beautiful woman later becomes his queen. Her name is Puranjani, like that. So, beautiful queen in this allegory is referred to as material intelligence, or in short way, she can be considered as a subtle body. So, so that is another thing to remember. Whenever this allegory, there are descriptions being given of Puranjana enjoying with Puranjani. The essential purport is that spirit soul is engaging with material intelligence to enjoy in sense gratification in different ways, as suggested by material intelligence, like that. So that is what is going on in the storyline. Okay. So now, in the last chapter, at one point of time, uh, King Puranjana left to the forest to do hunting, and at that time is described he was uh, the last verse of the previous chapter says, actually he's coming back to, after going away for some time to hunting, he comes back to the palace. That time he sees that the queen is in a sulky mood. The queen is not happy that he left her. In the last chapter, one of the key lesson given is that how, if we leave our dharmic duties and go away, then we need to suffer for that. That is one common lesson given in the last chapter. So now another lesson to take is that when we go against our mind, against our material intelligence to really progress spiritually, like that, then sometimes the material intelligence gives a fit, like a sulky queen in in this circumstance. Then we have to deal with that also, like that, because suddenly it appears more stronger than before, because we ignore the material intelligence for some time. So now we need to pacify. How do we pacify? By actually strengthening our spiritual intelligence. How do we strengthen spiritual intelligence? Through regulation, and also specifically through the instructions from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That is how we can strengthen our spiritual intelligence. So that's what we need to remember when we're seeing the dealings of in the past time of the Puranjana and Puranjani. That means soul is dealing with material intelligence. Now going to this chapter, chapter 27. Let me go share that screen again. So I'll refer to the translations on the screen while I'm looking at the purport in my book here. So essentially, so the first verse, Narad Muni is describing this to Prachena Barhi. What is he saying? He's saying that after bewildering her husband, Puranjani's husband in different ways and bringing him under control, her control. So Puranjani gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed sex life with him. So this is after the king comes back, and then they again start the episode of enjoying with each other. That's what is going on. In this context, Prabhupada writes few wonderful points in the purport. So let's go through that one. So in the verse itself is talking about how King Puranjana enjoyed with his wife, which is in this case soul enjoying with the material intelligence. In the purport, Prabhupada writes how a sinful life, basically systematic family life, is far better than sinful life. That means somebody enjoying with women or opposite gender without marriage is very, very sinful. Compared to that, staying in marriage life is better. That is one point Prabhupada makes. This is commonly, we can understand this principle in a simple manner when we consider the act of eating. For example, we are all practicing devotees. What is the highest standard for us in terms of purified eating? That eating food that is cooked with love for Krishna, with the intention to offer to Krishna by a devotee with devotion, and similar way offered to Krishna with devotion also. That remnant we accept it. That is the highest standard. So the lowest standard is one of the four regulated principles: no meat eating. That means not eating meat like that. So there's a whole gradation of things in between. One is high standard is food cooked by devotees and offered by devotees with love for Krishna and taking their remnant. That's the highest standard. Now, little lower than that is sometimes for children's sake, we might have to take some bread from outside or cereal from outside, and then we offer to Krishna and we accept it. Next lower standard is then we offer, basically, we're compromising on one of the two principles. Devotee is cooked and it's offered with love, like that. One of these two principles, right? So then we go down further, that vegetarian food, vegetarian food without onion, garlic, like that. And then lowest thing is no meat, no eggs, like that. So how there are gradations here in terms of eating food, and the highest standard we devotees try to follow, which is only eating prasadam that is cooked by devotees and offered by devotees. So similarly, here Prabhupada is talking about how family life is better than uh, enjoying sex life without marriage, like that. That doesn't mean that that makes it a highest standard. Highest standard in terms of married life is having sex life for procreation, for having children who are Krishna conscious only. Yeah, that is one theme Prabhupada talks about. Now coming to the next theme Prabhupada talks about is that how are the husband and wife living together in case of a practice in devotees? They're not living just to exploit each other, enjoy each other. That is not the main purpose. The main purpose is both of them are fixed. I want my ultimate goal, my highest goal is to engage in pure devotion service to Krishna. I don't have that full conviction, full desire, full capacity right now, but that is my desire. So I want to progress towards that gradually. And my wife or husband is also progressing towards that gradually. So we both support each other so that we can progress in pure devotion service, whatever way we can. Because husband might have some special strengths, wife may have some special strengths. We support each other so that we can grow in devotion service together. So that is the purpose of marriage life for devotees. Prabhupada writes that point. And that's the important principle to remember also. Because when we remember the purpose of a relationship, then it is very clear how then we'll be in the mood of service, how I can help my wife or husband to be devotion to be devotee. Like that will be in situation. Not like how my wife or husband can give me more enjoyment. That's not the mood we'll be in, like that. So that's why the purpose is clear for devotees in their life. Now, another thing Prabhupada talks about in the same purport, very nice lessons for practicing devotees. So he says that husband should engage in devotion service and wife should be faithful and religious according to Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. Then, basically, Prabhupada talks about how husband has a responsibility to become spiritually fixed nicely. That is number one point. Uh, if a feminist reads this paragraph or these scriptures, they might read in a different angle. But we as devotees can understand in a balanced way. What is the balanced way? One is husband has a role in a family life as a leader. Leader doesn't mean that somebody is a servant like that. Leader means somebody who has a service to guide, service to protect, service to give shelter to the family members like that. So somebody is in such a position, he needs to give such shelter to his dependents. For what purpose? So that they can grow in spiritual life. But how can he give such a shelter? First of all, when he is fixed in devotional service himself, when he sheltered himself with another relationship. That means he himself is sheltered under spiritual master, under bona fide spiritual master. Then with that shelter he has, now he can extend the shelter to his dependents also, including the wife and children. So that is the first point being shared. Of course, in this context, we can also understand that what kind of shelter husband gives shelter in all levels in terms of material shelter, that means taking care of the bodily needs of the family members, and in terms of emotional shelter, that means take care of the emotional needs that a wife and children have, and in terms of spiritual needs also, that means he gives spiritual shelter also. So each of these itself is a big topic, but essentially husband has this responsibility and duty to grow himself in being able to give shelter to his dependents in these ways, not just spiritually, not just physically, not just emotionally. All three angles he needs to get training and learn to give that shelter. Number one. Number two, in this purport, Prabhupada also talks about how is there is there for a man's duty keep him to basically to satisfy the woman by giving her ornaments, nice food, and clothes, and engaging her in religious activities, and also give her children so that she can take care of them like that. Instead of man getting attracted to women only for sex enjoyment. That's the point Prabhupada is making. So the point again here is, if you look at the principle wise, giving her necessary things to be um, happy enough to practice devotion service. This is another important principle. Sometimes we practicing devotees will look for scripture. Why is it not telling me that you can only buy 5 gold ornaments, only 30 saris, only one car? Why is scripture not telling me like that? Why is it telling me why it is very, very gray, not black and white? That is because it is very individual. Spiritual life is very, very individual for each one of us. What do you mean by that? That means each of us need certain level of comforts, certain level of luxury to be peaceful to practice Krishna consciousness. And that level of needs will gradually reduce as we progress in devotion service. But for each of us, it's different. That's why scriptures don't give black and white, but they give principles, especially the principle. Our Guru and Sadhu helps us to see principle from these scriptures. So the principle is that we need to ensure our dependents like wife and children have sufficient um, n- n- sufficient comforts and needs so that they can peacefully practice spiritual life. That is the principle we can take from here. So other principle is women should have proper engagement also is described here. What kind of engagement? Engagement in religious activity, engagement in taking care of children also. That means generally one of the responsibility of a leader is to ensure that his dependents are uh, not only properly sheltered, like we discussed, but also they are properly engaged also, constructively engaged, not destructively engaged. So that's another act of that requires training, that requires creativity, that requires prayer to Supreme Lord, so that they can guide us to engage our dependents in a constructive manner. So that's the other principle we can learn from here. So one of the ways to engage constructively is engage wife also in devotion service, and also our husband in devotion service, and then take care of the family like that. So now going to the next paragraph, another point Prabhupada makes is how if the husband sees wife as very beautiful, uh, then he may get too much attracted to her, and he might get too much captivated by her beauty. And then he might go in wrong direction, leaving the ultimate goal of life, which is to grow in spiritual life. So now, in this last couple of paragraphs, Prabhupada makes a beautiful point. So generally, okay, when the word generally comes, or when the word majority comes, so that itself should give us a caution. That means not everyone, not fully all the people. There will be exceptions like that. So Prabhupada says generally women are very passionate. Basically, we know in the world currently most people are in mode of passion and ignorance, and among them, women are generally more passionate. Prabhupada writes here. So that doesn't mean men are not in passion and ignorance. That doesn't mean that. So, but women are more prone to that. That's the point being made. Now, Prabhupada is writing in the purport that a man should raise himself to mode of goodness by doing what? By practicing bhakti, not independently. We should not strive independently, do anything to make our life better, even if it is mode of goodness, even if it is doing charity, even if it's doing sacrifices. We should strive for all of the religious things only to please Krishna, only to grow in our bhakti, not separate way. Then that is not counted as bhakti. Then that will become jnana yoga, that becomes karma yoga like that. What we want to do is bhakti in our life. So by doing bhakti sufficiently, like we know from first canto, second chapter also, as bhakti progresses, the effect of passion ignorance goes down and effect of goodness comes up. And like in 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna also describes how after we get to the mode of goodness through the bhakti, we can get to the Vishuddha Sattva or pure goodness platform also. So like that Prabhupada says, we need to come to the goodness and then bring wife also into mode of goodness. That is a good option Prabhupada is suggesting. Instead of going becoming attached to the wife and us also degrading to passion and ignorance like that. Instead of that, elevate the consciousness of our spouse also to a higher level. Same thing can apply in some families for a wife to do. In some families, wife may be in devotional service, husband may not yet have taken devotional service. So then we can do that. But again, how we do that is slightly different, but still the principle holds good. The the reason I'm saying why how we do that is different is because generally women and men have a different kinds of nature. So we need to understand the different nature and work accordingly to serve as inspiration for one another, to support one another like that. So for example, man likes to be leader. I am the in charge like that. So woman understands that nature and says, you are the in charge. How about what do you think if you do like this? You decide if that makes sense to you. Then say, yes, yes, I want to take care of you. I want to listen to you. So let's do that. Like that, there's a way of doing things to grow together in family life. Like that. So that's the other point Prabhupada makes in the purport. So, oh, just 1 minute. Sorry, I'm back. Somebody came at the door, so that's it. Okay. So then, um, so Prabhupada writes, touches one principle at the end of the whole purport. Okay. So he talks about how Generally, a man is encouraged to take vanaprastha at a later ages and then sannyasa also like that. Of course, these instructions we should see holistically. When we read the scripture fully, when we read all the Prabhupada books fully, then we get a thorough understanding of when what principle applies for us and how do we apply that principle properly in our life also. Yeah, we can talk more about it. It will come up, I think. Vanaprastha will come up again in a few paragraph purpose also. And then, so first few purports have a lot of it in it. That's why I'm taking more time. Then we'll proceed quickly because the storyline is very simple only. Then second verse is describing how queen dressed herself nicely, and then the king welcomed her with all devotion like that. So now Prabhupada addresses another principle in Grostha life. How he talks about how the duty of the wife is to dress herself up very nicely so that when her husband returns home, he becomes attracted by her dress and cleanliness and thus becomes satisfied. And one beautiful point Prabhupada makes is purport. In other words, the wife is the inspiration of all good intelligence. This is the important principle to note. So basically, Prabhupada is writing that when a husband goes to the office and then comes back after a day full of hard work at work, then instead of seeing his wife in a shabby way, she should appear very clean, very pleasantly like that. That is the point here made. Why? So that his mind becomes, after a day full of anxieties, his mind becomes peaceful. So he can engage in the family business, whatever that is. That can be doing some family duties peacefully, or he takes a shower and then does his spiritual duties in the evening nicely, like that. So that is the point Prabhupada making. So other important point I highlighted was the wife is the inspiration of all good intelligence. That means wife. Oh yeah, Prabhupada writes later on also same point. Prabhupada makes two times in the same purport. A wife is therefore supposed to be an inspiration and should keep the husband's intelligence in good order so that they can combinedly prosecute the affairs of family life without impediment. So generally we hear commonly how behind any successful man there is a woman, we hear like that. That's not just a simple statement. It is true because even in material life, when a man is inspired by his wife, then he can go on to achieve great things. That is only possible with inspiration from a wife. But instead, if the wife doesn't inspire him, instead, if the wife discourages him all the time, oh, you are good for nothing, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't give me this, you don't give me that, uh, then they don't feel like I am the in charge and I want to give protection to the wife. I need to take care of my children like that. When they hear that statements that you are not useful as a leader, okay, I'm not useful, I'll just stay here. You do what I want. Now you take care of family. I don't do much. Like that, there's a tendency that men can go in that direction. So that's why I say women are meant to be nice inspiration for husbands. So that way, husbands can practice devotional life and both husband and wife together can practice devotional life also. That doesn't deny the responsibility of husband. We already talked about how husband has a greater responsibility to give shelter in terms of material, emotional, and spiritual level like that. Going to the third verse now. Third verse, he talks about how, yeah, they both are enjoying with each other with joking words is described. And then King Puranjana is captivated with his beautiful wife. And because he is captivated by his beautiful life, he is deviated from his good sense is described. And he forgot that the passing of days and nights meant that his span of life was being reduced without profit. So these are important things to consider for us. Prabhupada makes a point also in the purport. Prabhupada is emphasizing that how time doesn't wait for anybody. time is passing away in life. Time is very valuable when it utilized. That is the main theme of this purport. We'll explore the few points in the purport. So first thing is uh, how wife may be enlivening to husband. At the same time, wife can be a cause of degradation also. How is that? That means if husband and wife don't take up the ultimate goal of spiritual life, ultimate goal of pure devotions our life, then what happens in that situation is then one of them who is not inclined towards spiritual life can degrade the other spouse from spiritual life also. That's the danger Prabhupada is talking about. And then, so when how is that happening? Basically, when somebody is immersed in enjoying life with his spouse in terms of material sense enjoyment, then they will naturally degrade their consciousness to the bodily level. Because one of the main thing, like we know from Bhagavad Gita, to practice spiritual life, it is simple. Prabhupada talks about many times this principle. What is spiritual life? Spiritual life is understanding who am I, who is God, and how do I engage myself in service of Him. That is a simple one statement of Krishna consciousness. In fact, recently, one of the child was asking my spiritual master this question. Can you tell what is Krishna consciousness in one sentence? Then my spiritual master explaining like this also. So that is a principle. So now, however, when I'm thinking I'm this body, not the spirit soul, then even if you know Krishna, there's nothing more in spiritual life beyond that. So that is why uh, we should be very careful with sense enjoyment, overly attached, getting attached to sense enjoyment. Because the moment sense enjoyment we are getting overly attached to, we degrade ourselves to bodily consumption of life. Because of that, then we think in terms of body, what is good for a body only, not in terms of what is good for the soul and what is in relation to Krishna like that. That's a principle also we can learn from this. Then Prabhupada writes in the purport that how we should utilize our time for devotion service. For all of us, time is the most valuable thing we have. So even money we can get somehow, even anything else we can get somehow. Time is the most valuable thing we have. So we have to see what are my goals in life? What is my ultimate goal in life? And how can what are my uh, intermediate goals towards my ultimate goal? We need to define for ourselves, whether it's 10 years goals or 20 years goals, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then from them, we can derive a short-term goals of 1 year goal, monthly goal like that, if you so desire. And then we can ensure our schedule has some time blocked for achieving those goals. Otherwise, at the end of the life, we think we're enjoying a life, but in that life, we think, oh my God, I wish I should have chanted every day nicely. I wish I should have read Bhagavatam every day nicely. I wish I should have attended classes every day nicely. Like that, we'll go into, instead of lamenting after 20 years from now, if we have the goal now itself understanding clearly, then we can ensure our schedule is blocked to achieve our goals, including spiritual goals. Of course, as a grihastha, we also need to allocate time to ensure that our health is maintained for ourselves and our family, our finances are taken care of, including our career is taken care of, our relationships are taken care of, but not all of this at the cost of our spiritual life. Our spiritual life is the topmost priority, and we take care of everything else so that we can practice spiritual life nicely. That understanding we should come to. Then everything will go smoothly. Then we don't think about balance. How can I do this also and this also like that? We're doing everything to do spiritual life. That is the understanding we need to come to. And that's so. And when we do that, actually, whatever else we are doing also becomes devotion service because we're doing it to please Krishna, because we're doing it so that we can practice bhakti like that. So then that's what Prabhupada talks about in the third verse purport, main themes. Going to the fourth verse now. In the fourth verse, basically, King Purunjana remained always with his wife. uh, you notice he considered her to be his ultimate life and soul. That means enjoying with her became his ultimate goal. Not the ultimate goal is not to do devotion for devotional service to Krishna, that like that. And he was in mode of ignorance. Because of being in mode of ignorance, he could not understand the meaning of self-realization. Who am I? I'm the spirit soul. I'm servant of Krishna. He lacked the knowledge because of mode of ignorance like that. Prabhupada writes some beautiful points in the purport. First point he makes is that when we become too much materially attached, then we take a moment to be everything. Then that becomes a source of material attachment. Then we cannot realize spiritual consciousness or self-realization we cannot get to. So Prabhupada writes in the purport is quoting something from Vrishabdev teachings. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes Tamodwaram Yoshittam Sangi Sangam. Basically, if we associate with devotees, doors of liberation gets open. But if one becomes too much attached to opposite gender or to persons who are too much attached to opposite gender, then that directly or indirectly somehow is attached to somebody, then it will open the door to the darkest region of hellish life. That's the point Prabhupada is making. So we should be careful to choose the right association, saintly association, so that we can progress in bhakti. Another point Prabhupada is making, when the consciousness is too much covered by wine, woman, and flesh, then we cannot make progress in self-realization like that. So basically what happens is when we are addicted to one of these vices, like intoxication, meat eating, or illicit sex, what happens is our consciousness is always covered with that thoughts. We are always thinking about that, absorbed in that, are making plans towards that. Then we will deprive ourselves of the objective of the life, purpose of life, like that. That's the point being made here. Going to the next verse in text 5. So King Puranjana, with his heart full of lust and sinful reactions, he began to enjoy sex with his wife. And what happened because of that? The consequence of staying always in enjoyment mode, enjoyment mode, enjoyment mode, his youth got over. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, from 16 to 30 years, basically 15 years of life is gone just by this activity, just by focusing on temporary enjoyment with the sense pleasure like that. So, um, this is a this is another danger we need to be watchful for. Generally, we spend time in our life in two broad categories. One is how can I increase my enjoyment? How can I be happy? How can I increase my happiness like that? And how can I reduce my suffering like that? Other ways of saying this is how can I enjoy more, enjoy more, enjoy more? Or how can I solve all my problems so I can be happy? These two ways. We spend time in either of these things instead of spending time on how can I improve my relationship with Krishna. We should understand sometimes we might be able to find solution for our problems in our life. Sometimes we might be able to find a better luxury or better comfort in life, but not all the time. So we should not have high hopes on being able to find better luxury or high hopes of solving our problems. Instead, our focus is in developing relationship with Krishna, and towards that, that is the ultimate solution, is to be in relationship with Krishna. And these temporary solutions may or may not work. With that understanding, we need to proceed in life. Then we're not consumed by these two things and we forget about that. Then we'll continue focused on our devotional goal like that. So that was about text 5. Let me go to the, I think, yeah, Prabhupada also writes in the text 5 purport one important point. That is, unrestricted sense enjoyment means sinful activities, he says. So, what is sinful activity? Sinful activity means something we are doing that is against scriptures. That is sinful activity. Prabhupada is writing in the purport. So that means we should follow the regulations of scriptures. How do we follow the regulations of scriptures? First, when we do the spiritual sadhana and we have the knowledge, what are the important things we need to follow in this age? For example, Prabhupada made it simple for us. Follow the four regulated principles of life and the chant Hare Krishna daily and read scriptures, hear scriptures, and then worship deities. With this following of regulations, then we make our life easy in terms of we get the spiritual strength so that we can uh, avoid ourselves going into sinful stages of life. That's the other point Prabhupada is making the purport. Going to text number 6. So here Narada then described how uh, King Puranjana had 1,100 sons with the wife, it seems. And what happened as a result of that? In that process, he lost some more time in the life, basically, from 30 to 50 years, basically. That life also he wasted now. Why is wasted? It's calling getting married and having children is not waste. Focusing on only that as a life goal and not practicing spiritual life is the wasting in life. That's the point being made here. So, Prabhupada writes, checking population by contraceptive method is another sinful activity. So, according to Vedic scriptures, the contraceptive method should be restraint in sex life, like that. So basically, instead, when wife and husband both consult each other, discuss with each other what they want to do in spiritual life, and through that mutual consultation, they can follow natural contraceptive by restricting sex life, not necessarily following an artificial contraceptive method like that Prabhupada writing. That way, they can advance in Krishna consciousness, except for having children like that. Now, text 7 continues that not only he had 1,100 sons, but he also had 110 daughters, it seems. And not only he has daughters, they had qualities like mother and father. That means they got the children by following the proper samskaras given in scriptures, like that Prabhupada writes. Of course, Prabhupada also writes in the purport that one should, after 50 years of age, go to take Vanaprastha order. What does Vanaprastha order means? Some dedicated spiritual life at that time. Both husband and wife can go take Vanaprastha and they dedicatedly practice most of the time in spiritual life. Currently, let us say I'm doing 7.5 hours office work. Rest of the time I'm doing family work and spiritual life and some social work like that, right? So as in Vanaprastha, majority of life is spiritual life for my own sadhana and for others sadhana also. That means seva for others also. That is majority of the time spent. The 7.5 hours spending for office and 2 hour, 1 hour spending with relatives and social obligations. All that should go towards spiritual life. My own sadhana and seva also. That is the key principle of Vanaprastha. Not that we to go somewhere and then only do like that. That is not the main principle. That's also nice. Staying in a holy place, staying in a temple, or doing a preaching service. All of them are acceptable. Details can be vary, but essential principle is more dedication to spiritual life after certain age of life. Going to text number 8 then. Yeah. So basically, not only he had so many sons and daughters, he married the sons to beautiful qualified wives and then daughters also to qualified husbands. So you notice scriptures are very careful in the words used. So in the verse itself, sadrisha is used. Sadrisha means qualified like that. So is not most important is not how much money the spouse has, how beautiful they are. Most important is how qualified they are. Means what kind of qualities they have, and are they having compatibility between each other in terms of their character and qualities. That is the most important thing. So that's what is emphasized here. Let me see in the purport. Yeah, Prabhupada talks about how um, yeah, in the Vedic culture, everyone is encouraged to have marriage so that way they can have children, so that children can give pindodaka, that way Shraddha ceremony they can do for better future like that. And then also another important point Prabhupada writes in the purport, which is reminding us, parents, mother and father, of the responsibility to uh, marry our sons and daughters. Of course, in this age there are some constraints. Children may not listen to us, whom we want them to marry, but still we encourage them and we give them sufficient values from childhood so that they don't go into other directions, but they get married properly and live a religious life, religious family life like that. That is to avoid varna sankara. That means to avoid mess up in the society also. It's important to have the right population coming up like that. So that's what right Prabhupada writes in eighth verse. Continuing to the ninth verse, of these many sons, each produced hundreds and hundreds of grandsons, it seems. So basically, in the purport, these sons and grandsons are described as actions and reactions that is created basically. When we do fruitive activities to enjoy like that, then we create so many karmic reactions for ourselves. So that is what is being described in the purport through this analogy of sons and grandsons like that. Mm, yeah. So this cycle continues, action reaction cycle continues unless one comes to devotion service. Going to text number 9. Text number 9 we finished at 10. So these sons and grandsons are virtually plunderers of king's riches. Basically, these actions and reactions, they're taking away the hard-earned money of the king, basically. That is the point being made here. So somebody will identify himself with family, society, and nation like that, and they'll do so much hard work. But ultimately, everything is temporary only in terms of attachments in this life, in terms of material designations we have in this life. Now, going to the text number 11, here one, yeah, like you. Okay, this is an interesting point here. Remember, Narada Muni is giving allegory story to tell Prachinbari that you're doing a wrong thing, get out of here like that. Go back to devotion service like that. Now is directly telling, almost directly telling that like you, King Puranjana also was doing lot of sacrifice and killing animals like that is telling to enjoy life like that. So that is a indirect indication here because Prabhupada writes, Narada knew that he will, if he tell directly, he would not have listened to him. That's why he's telling in this way like that is giving the point here. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that neither Krishna nor the devotees sanction killing of animals at any time like that. Especially in the Kali Yuga, we know because there's no qualified Brahmanas, any kind of animal sacrifices are not recommended in the Kali Yuga like that. That's the other point made by Prabhupada many times in this context. In the text number 12, he was doing karmakanda sacrifices and being obsessed with polluted consciousness. Eventually arrived at the point not very much liked by those. Basically, he was doing these fruity sacrifices and keeping on enjoying like that. Why is he doing fruity sacrifices? So that he can get more enjoyment like that. So what has happened to that? Then at the end of time, he got into the old age. Because once you get the old age, when somebody wants to only enjoy senses, what happens in the old age? They cannot enjoy much anymore because there's so many problems that body comes with in old age. That's what is being described in this verse. Going further, so this is the turning point for this chapter. Basically, until now, King Purunjana was enjoying with the material intelligence in different way in terms of sense enjoyment. And that's how he came to the final old age now. So that is what is good turning point here. So in Gandharva Loka, there is a king named Chandavega. Under him, there are 360 very powerful Gandharva soldiers. So basically, this and the next couple of verses are telling how Chandavega is nothing but the time factor. The time factor along with 360 powerful Gandharva soldiers. This is 360 days it is described. And then also there are female soldiers also. They are 360 night times is described. That makes it total 720 coming up in the next verse like that. All these soldiers are nothing but every day going on, going on, going on. As the sun rises next day, right? Our generally one day is reducing in my life. Our life is reducing, 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 reducing like that as the time goes on. That's what is being indicated here. That they are all plundering all paraphernalia for sense enjoyment. What does that mean? That means normally we can enjoy nicely seeing him. For example, if somebody is able to use their eyes to see 3 movies at one shot, but when they become old, they cannot sit for 3 movies at one shot. They have to only sit for a half movie or something like that. Like that, enjoyment tendency goes down. Enjoyment, not only enjoyment tendency, enjoyment capacity of the senses goes down. That's what is being described. In the form of time, all that sense enjoyment capacity is going down day by day is described. Um, yeah, that's what is being described in the next text 14 and text 15 also. Then, yeah, here, text 16, the five-hooded serpent. You might remember when King Purunjana met this queen, he saw a five-hooded serpent with her, who was protecting her. That five-hooded serpent is nothing but prana, the life air in the body. So she was trying to protect. She said, okay, this serpent will protect us, so we both can enjoy like that. That's how it started originally, their initial interaction. So it is describing that prana tried to protect from the effect of time, but nobody can fight the effect of time. Ultimately, through time, old age comes. So that's why it is giving described. Everything is that prana was also getting weakened. So then king became very anxious, it seems. Then until now, text 18, King Puranjana collected taxes in city known as Panchara. He was able to being completely under the control of women, he could not understand that life was passing away, that and that he was reaching to the point of death. So we as practicing devotees, we need to be careful about this fact. How time is running away. So we need to utilize our time, energy, and enthusiasm in the right way so that we can progress towards our ultimate goal of devotion service to Krishna like that. And then here it says, now, until now, Chandavega came. Time is reducing it. And then old age came, right? Now, the daughter of time came, which is, daughter of time is, here it's called Kalakanya is the word is used. In the next verse, she is introduced by the name Jara. Jara means old age. Specifically in these verses, we hear it's not just the old age that came, invalidity that comes with old age. That means after old age becomes more and more, more and more, we cannot see much of anything, we cannot hear much of anything, we cannot talk coherently one sentence properly, or we may not be able to walk properly, we may not be able to get up, move easily, all those things, right? That's what came finally, Jara. And then she was trying to find a suitable husband, it seems. She was going around, going around, going around, but then nobody nobody wants old age, we know, because everybody wants to enjoy in youth only. Nobody wants old age. So Prabhupada writes in the purport of this verse that we should be careful to start practicing devotional service sincerely and seriously now itself, instead of waiting for the old age. That time I'll practice devotional service. Why? Because in old age, because of invalidity, we may not be able to do much of many things in Krishna consciousness at that time. That's why we should utilize our time now itself while we are young, while our senses are strong, to practice Krishna consciousness nicely like that. So going to the 21st verse. Yeah. Here Narada Muni is describing, actually this old age came to me also. Jara came to me and she asked me, can you marry me? But I'm a strict brahmachari. I'm a Naistika brahmachari. I said, no, no. But Nardamuni directs her to Yavana Raja, who is a fear personified. Yavana Raja is in the analogy, he represents fear or bhaya, like that. So when Nardamuni refused like that, this oh, Jara, she became very angry and cursed him that you cannot stay at one place at any time. Prabhupada writes in the purport, we hear similar curse by Daksha, Nardamuni, right? Prabhupada writes in the purport, that is a blessing for preacher. Preacher always want to deliver many people. So he's happy going here and there. He doesn't want to just sit and enjoy at one place like that. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. So then she finally approaches the king of the Yavanas by name Baya or fear. And she approaches him nicely in this set of verses by quoting Shastra. She tells him, "Oh, whoever takes shelter of you can they can never lament." But and then it says it's a gentleman's greatest duty to be compassionate upon a person who's distressed. Like that, she uses Shastra to plead for his shelter, like that. So one thing Prabhupada writes in the purport for 24th verse is that there's a reference to Yavana Raja, right? Prabhupada asks, who's Yavana, who is Malecha? Is not some country people, some caste people, not like that. Any one of us, if you're not practicing Vedic principles properly, like getting up early, taking bath early, and then chanting Hare Krishna, offering Mangalarti, studying Vedic literature, taking prasad only, and then using our money for serving Krishna and the temple. If you're not following the Vedic principles, then we are also Malecha and Yavana, Prabhupada writes in the purport. Number one. Another important point Prabhupada writes in purport is, remember how we talked about in the old age, people cannot do much of anything like that. But devotees can do great things at old age. Like we know personal example of Srila Prabhupada, how he achieved so much in the old age. We know personal example of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Prabhupada writes in the purport, how very old age his hand was shaking, but he produced such a wonderful literature, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, like that. Similarly, our Goswamis wrote wonderful literature and excavated beautiful places, established deity worship of wonderful deities for all our benefit. So, devotees are not affected by this old age like that, Prabhupada writing in the purport. So, going further, yeah, Prabhupada writes in the purport of 25 that we should follow the authority of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra always. Otherwise, we can do what we think we are doing the right thing, but it may not be the right thing. We should follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, like that Prabhupada explains. Going to text 26. So now she's asking him, can you please accept me? Show me mercy. Like that she asked, right? Now, after hearing this Kalakanya, who is a Jara, right? Then Yavana Raja begins to smile and he wants to serve on behalf of the Krishna. So in the mood of service, not mood of enjoying her, he accepted her. Not as a wife, but as a sister, he says later on. And then, of course, Prabhupada comments that for Yavanas who are not following Vedic regulations, they don't care. It's a wife or sister. They will engage with whoever they want, like that. That's the comment he makes. But the other comment Prabhupada makes here is that he wants to utilize it in service. How he will utilize it in service? That is explained in a couple of verses later on. Basically, he says, I have a brother called Prajvara. There is the highest fever, it seems. That means when you temperature go to 107 at time of death, that people will die, it seems. So along with Prajvara, he is the fear personified himself, and then he use the old age to give, along with his dangerous soldiers. Who are the dangerous soldiers? Who create different kinds of diseases like that. So with all of them, he will create a lot of fear in them, person who's about to die. So that way they can realize, oh my God, I need to take up spiritual life, like that. So that is what is going on. So basically, all these circumstances that we go through in life, whether it's old age, whether it's disease, whether it's different kinds of miseries we may experience, like miseries from our own body and mind, miseries caused by other living entities, natural disturbances, these are all seen by a devotee as impetus to take shelter of Krishna, to depend on Krishna more and more, like that. So, to summarize this chapter, essentially we heard the dangers of focusing on happiness, 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 sense enjoyment, sense enjoyment, sense enjoyment, which will lead us to ignore the ultimate goal of spiritual life. So, we should be focused and understand the value of time and be focused in our practice of devotion service and be cautious and take the help of our spouse to grow together in spiritual life instead of becoming materially attached to each other and degrading our consciousness. So that is the main principle we're getting. And then also as we grow old, our devotional uh, time we spent in devotional life should increase. Yeah. So I'll pause here. If anyone has any comments or questions, we can discuss.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Swami.
so much for such a beautiful class. Thank you for going through the purports and the key points in the purports, which it always Bhagavatam always feels like I'm hearing it for the first time. And especially as you were reading the purports and giving insights from the purports, it felt like I've never heard this before. So thank you for that. It's always a very nice way to refresh our memory. Uh, Thank you for being so compassionate when you were talking, and you were very nicely outlining the responsibilities of a man and a woman, very nicely, very gently, uh, in a very sensitive manner. And also, thank you for those the last sections where Prabhupada writes about a devotee becomes even more um, active in old age, and giving the example of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and others, and himself, Prabhupada also. Also, the definition of who a Mlecha is. Mlechas need not be from a caste or a country. If you are not
Mm,
following Vedic scriptures itself, we are Mlecha. So
yeah,
very,
correct,
Prabhu.
Mother. Yeah,
Thank you so
yeah.
much again.
Welcome. Most welcome. Thank you, Mother, for
Hare
sharing nice points. Yeah.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mother.
Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a beautiful class. Prabhuji, first class was going very slow. I was thinking, Prabhuji is still in fourth watch. How of the time is done? How is he going to cover? And you did magic and you did on time at 7:30 exactly. 5 minutes. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
did exactly covered the verses, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. The way you took the chapter is so nice. How ideal couple should lead their life in Krishna consciousness. That was clearly explained how the responsibilities should be handled nicely. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for explaining very detailedly. Very grateful to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, if anybody having any more questions, realizations, please go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I went a little bit over time. Yeah, we
No,
can end here.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
not
Thank you.
over time. I was just trying to
Sure.
tell that how you magically covered whole chapter just like that. I was thinking Prabhuji is nicely telling each purport slowly.
Yeah.
Whether he'll be able to cover 30 verses, I was thinking, but you did it very
Yeah.
nicely, Prabhuji.
I like the
Thank you
first few
so much.
purports. They're deep. That's why I was taking more time in first few purports.
Yes,
Yeah. Thank you,
yes,
Mother. Yeah.
Prabhuji. Very
Yeah.
nice
Thank you.
explanations. It's very nice always to read purports because then we will understand what Srila Prabhupada is trying to give us a message from those verses.
Hmm.
As you said in the beginning of the class, these verses are very hard to understand, but Srila Prabhupada was given very nicely explaining us how we can lead Krishna consciousness life in this material world easily. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mother. Hare
Active Das Prabhu, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. So I
Krishna.
have a controversial question I didn't want to raise in this forum, but Srila Prabhupada is the epitome of Krishna consciousness, right? And so why did his own kids wanted to fight for ISKCON?
His own Krishna wanted to?
Fight to get ISKCON like
Okay.
as a legacy, right?
Got it,
Because he
understood.
had kids in very young age, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, bro. Nice question. It's always good. Srimad Bhagavatam is enriched in the discussion of devotees.
Like in
Because
Shastra, it is
uh,
explained what kind of soul you want to attract or what kind of kid you want. You can plan definitely, like exactly and precisely.
okay. So of course, Shastra talks about what are the things we could do in our capacity to try to attract a nice soul. And that much Shastra gives guidance, but there's no guarantee because we are not the ultimate controller. There's no guarantee that Krishna has to sanction that. The ultimate control is in Krishna's hand only. Number one. That means whatever, for example, I can do my 16 rounds every day nicely. I can go to Mangalati every day nicely. But Krishna is not obliged to take me to Golok Vrindavan just because of that. Because people who I may be doing that, but I may be proud, I may be offending all the devotees left and right. So it's not a mechanical process like that. That means I put $1, I need to get a Coke can from a vending machine. Not like that. That's one point I want to mention. Second point is when we see in Acharya's own lives, for example, another example I want to give you similar to what you are asking is Advaita Acharya. Out of the five Panchatattva, Advaita Acharya is such an elevated personality. He is Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva's combined incarnation. Such a personality, some of his sons went into Apasampradaya, it seems. Not even Pravata for Sampradaya, some Apasampradaya. That means not only not being a devotee, but opposite of a devotee, like that. So that situations Krishna creates for different reasons. We may not understand all the reasons. For example, in the first canto, probably you might have read in the 7th or 8th chapter, when Bhishma Devi is giving instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj, he says Krishna's plan we cannot understand clearly for all of us. However, Krishna may be doing for different things. For example, one other in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains about this point. How some of the Acharya's sons may go in a deviated path also. What he explains in that context, I will explain you. What he says is they want to ensure there's no biological, what do they call, biological descendants coming forward from Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, like that is described. In that purport, Prabhupada describes. I'm not fully conversant with the history, who are all descendants of Nityananda Prabhu. I'm not fully conversant, but I remember that purport Prabhupada says like that. That way, people think, oh, I am the grandson of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am a pure devotee. That should not happen. Only if somebody has devotion, they should happen like that. That is one point I want to share, Prabhuji. Another point is, every soul has a free will. Even a pure devotee son, he has a free will. He might want to do something else. That actually should be given inspiration for us and give caution to us to deal with our children lightly. That means we should give all the things in our capacity possible to help our children by giving all the love to them, by us becoming fixed in Krishna consciousness, by us becoming happy in Krishna consciousness. We should give that positive influence and positive environment. Lots of opportunities to engage in Krishna consciousness in the way they want to. That much we can do. But ultimately, what they can do, we cannot guarantee. Whether somebody is a pure devotee, somebody is even Krishna's own son, you might remember. In 10th canto, we hear about how Krishna's own son gets deviated by bad association like that. So that possibility is there as a soul for anyone, Prabhuji. So that's another thing we can learn from that. So we should be cautious. These examples are meant to give us caution and inspiration to practice devotion more and to help our children more like that. I hope that helps, Prabhuji. Or if you had some other angle to it, please feel free to ask again.
Thank you, Prabhu. Completely satisfying.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Is there any more questions? Okay, if there are no more questions,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the seva and for the class. It was really very enlightening and could follow the things very nicely. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, once
you.
again for such a beautiful class and nice question and answers session that you have nicely explained for Akshara, Prabhuji, and that how, every soul have an individual journey. As a parents, we do our duty. It's depend upon their destiny and their own endeavor to go into Krishna consciousness, but we have to do our duty.
Yeah, we do our best.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Yes, like
Correct.
Srila Prabhupada has did his best to his children.
Correct.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyev cha patitanam
Patana
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo
Namo
namo.
Namah.
Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai,
Ki
Srila
jai.
Prabhupada
Prabhupada
ki
ki
jai, His Grace
jai.
Sundarananda Prabhuji
Hare
ki
Krishna. Prabhupada ki
jai.
jai.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Prabhuji.